By a show of fingers, who would say the topic of immigration is one that you, your family, and friends are actively discussing with each other? Show of fingers, who would say that that is happening with you, your family, and your friends? You're actively talking about the topic of immigration. 6 of you are. Okay. Oscar, what are you saying to each other?
Um, just saying maybe it could probably be more narrowed down a little bit better. And um, I mean, it is effective, but more concise, I guess, more specific.
Explain that to me what you mean by narrowed down.
Just because he said he was gonna do focus on the criminals and stuff like that, and then there's people that are not criminals that are also going. Um, it, so maybe just a more tailored approach to the whole thing.
Okay. All right, thanks. Maria, what are you saying to each other? You're muted.
Well, can you hear me? Besides saying it's complete chaos, what's going on lately, and how social media is taking it and running with it and making its own agenda behind it. Um, we discussed how it's not the first rodeo. Like this is not the first time any president has sent back immigrants, and they make it seem like Trump is the first one and oh, he's the devil because he's doing it. So it's just how people are just uninformed and just again, they want to hate on Trump and not really see the realistics of Democrats were doing it. Obama did it, Clinton did it, they all did it. But now it's just the first time everyone's discussing it. So that's what we're mostly talking about here in my home.
Okay. Jennifer, tell me what you're saying to each other.
I think a little bit like what Oscar said, like I think more of maybe like a criteria or breaking it down better in the sense of like who really should be going back to their country and who, making sure, again, that it's somebody who hasn't committed a crime or sorry, somebody has committed a crime. I guess they're focusing on both like those who have committed crimes and those who haven't. So like a better assessment or I guess criteria of breaking down who should really be going back and who should not.
Okay. So if I'm understanding you correctly, and Oscar, tell me if I'm understanding you correctly as well, there's some concern about not prioritizing the criminals first. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I guess because he it's just not criminals, it's everybody. Everybody's going.
Okay. So hang on a second. So Jennifer, the concern is what? That I'm not sure I'm fully getting what you're saying.
There's some that are going back because they should, but then there are also some immigrants that are going that really maybe they haven't committed a crime or there's criteria trying to think of the wording here. I guess it boils down to there's some that are going back that should, and then there's some that shouldn't, and they should be staying.
Okay, so you're not happy with the sorting process that the administration
Yes.
is going through? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, the sorting process. So yeah, like they need to have like some time of like criteria or like breaking it down. Like criteria in the sense of like who, why should why should a person go back if they're here legally or why should they stay, like, but yeah, the process of it.
Okay. Got it. So separate from the things that Oscar and Jennifer are saying, what other things are you folks saying to your friends and family and they saying to you? What do the conversations sound like? Hector, go ahead.
So my best friend is native Colombian, and my girlfriend is a native Dominican Republic. Um, she's from the Dominican Republic. They're actually both happy that this is going on, because both of them went through the loophole, or I was going to say the hurdles and everything else that it takes to become an American citizen. The money, the time invested, and then they're seeing people come walk across the border getting handouts for free and not having to go through the process, and they're not happy about it, and I don't blame them.
Okay, got it. All right. So a number of you have those kinds of conversations, satisfaction with what's going on. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay.
Correct.
Justin, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I know I said it. Maybe I misunderstood. It is brought up in conversation, like my parents and stuff like that. And the only thing that's really said is, well, what do you expect? If you came here illegally, you done something illegal, expect the consequences. They had to go through the whole process and everything else. Scads of paperwork, like a 2-year process to come here legally. So don't be surprised if you done something illegal and it catches up to you. That's the only conversation that we've really had about it, and how it's just been a mess and a nightmare leaving it open. What do you expect to happen? Somebody has to clean stuff up at some point in time. That's about it.
Okay. So Maria, you said that Trump is only doing what Obama and Clinton did.
Well, not just only, every president does it. Biden just opened the gates and said, everyone just come on in. He was a complete clown about it, but every president has done and deportation in some way, shape, or form. But the social media and the news networks are just, it's Trump. Trump is the only one doing this. How dare he do this? No one has ever done this before.
Okay. So let me ask you, by a show of fingers, who thinks that what Trump is doing is going beyond the norms? In other words, he's doing way more on deportations than Obama did, for example. Anybody feel that way? So for you folks, basically what Trump is doing is essentially the same as Obama's done in the past and Clinton's done in the past. People come in illegally, we just send them back. That's basically, Trump is behaving basically the same way as everybody, other presidents that preceded him.
Correct. I just think social media has taken it to the 10th level. That's
Okay.
why it's more broadcast and spun in a different way.
I think
Unlike
it's more
other years.
exaggerated.
Yeah, unlike other years.
Okay, so it's exaggerated. So basically the media is exaggerating it, social media is exaggerating it. This is really the same as what Obama did when he was president and others have done, sending people back. Okay. So by a show of fingers, who would describe what's going on in your local Hispanic community as a climate of fear? If there's a climate of fear in the Hispanic community where you live, would any of you describe that there is a climate of fear?
Yeah, there is by where I live.
Who said that?
Me, Oscar.
Oscar. Okay, sorry, I couldn't tell who said it. Oscar, so there is a climate of fear where you are.
Yeah, in the city. I don't live in the city, but the city's close, and there is fear there. Yeah.
Okay, tell me about that. How is it affecting day-to-day life?
I'm not. Gosh, I mean, it doesn't affect me. I just know there is because of I don't live there, but the citizens that live there, the undocumented people, yeah, I mean, they say it on Facebook because I belong to a Facebook page for Latinos in the city where you can, advertise services and all that stuff. And people on there, they make posts where, they talk about ICE being in the city and, not to go out of your house and stuff like that. So there's definitely the raids and stuff going on.
Okay. And no one else is hearing that in the communities where you are.
Well, I don't hear it per se, but like Oscar said, I do see it on Facebook. But when I walk around, when I go to my local stores and things like that, you don't hear it, you don't see it, you don't feel the fear, but online it's there. But again, it
Okay.
could be just exaggerated.
So Maria, you're talking about, are you talking about local Facebook groups, or are you talking about
Correct.
outside?
Local Facebook groups, even like the marketplace when it should be selling markets. Everyone's just making posts about, oh, I see ice here, or can I cross the border? We're planning on going to California. Is it safe to go? They're taking everyone from Nursery Star, or they're taking everyone from Home Depot, and I'm like, I drive around and I don't see nothing of that. Or go to my local stores and I don't feel the fear. It's just online only.
Okay. Got it. So, by a show of fingers, who has heard news in the past 2 weeks about protests and riots in Los Angeles related to immigration? Who's heard about that? Protests and riots in Los Angeles due to immigration? Oscar, you're muted if you're talking.
Yeah.
Okay. Wait, so you have heard about protests and riots in Los Angeles? You have. Okay. All 7 of you. William, what have you heard?
I hear conflicting reports. If I go to one station, everything's peaceful, nothing's happening. If I go to another station, there's a balance. If I go to another station, everything's chaotic and it's World War III. It's really, everybody's got their own little niche, I guess, where they see things. I just try to gather all the information, see all the videos I can, and then make my own assessment, which I see that mainly across the board, things are for the majority peaceful. But there are those agitators out there that just refuse not to stir up trouble. And there are some trouble spots. We had some protests here in Atlanta, and it was all peaceful until it ended at 9 o'clock, and then 6 guys decided to go crazy, and they arrested all 6 of them. But for the majority of the protests, which lasted 3 hours, it went peaceful. They said their piece, and then they went home.
Okay. What else are you guys? Thank you. What else are you guys hearing about what's going on in Los Angeles? Hector?
So if you turn on the news, it's mostly peaceful but fiery protests. But my brother actually lives in LA. It's been going on for days. People are blowing up cars and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. What you see in the news doesn't seem to represent what is actually happening over there.
Okay, so the news is not telling the full story, or it's...
I think they're softening what's really going on. They're not being completely honest.
How many of you, by a quick show of fingers, think that you're not getting the full story about what's going on in LA? Something's being kept from you? Who feels that way? William and Hector, 2 of you. Okay. So President Trump has activated 4,000 National Guardsmen and sent 700 Marines to Los Angeles. By a show of fingers, who approves of these specific steps? Six of you do. Jennifer, why do you approve?
I approve because it really does get out of hand. The National Guard will be there hopefully to keep it under control.
Okay. Other reasons why people support? Irma, why do you support it?
Because these idiots are trying to tear down their city, burn the cars, and then they complain because there's no money in LA. But they did it to themselves.
Okay. Any other reasons why you approve of the president doing this? Maria?
The mayor, I forgot her name.
Karen Bass.
Thank you. And Newsom, they keep saying everything's peaceful, everything's calm, we don't need your help. But then the sheriff is saying, you guys are delusional. We don't have the manpower. They're overtaking the city. The local cops are being told, stand down, go here, and then someone has to take over. Like, someone has to say, stop, you guys can't overpower the state. They're rioting. Like, you have to be blind not to see the stuff that they're doing. That's not nothing that you see is peaceful.
Got it. Hector, let me move on if that's okay. Justin, why do you not approve of these steps to send the National Guard and Marines in?
How quickly people's memories fade. All this stuff going on in 2020, whatever, that type of stuff. We all remember Kenosha, all that type of stuff in Michigan, Kyle Rittenhouse, blah, 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 blah. Trump was grilled. Why did you not send in the National Guard? And the simple response was correctly that there is a chain of command that has to be followed. A governor needs to request. We can't just go in there. The state needs to request. Now he's just completely gone against that. And for another reason, I'll go way back in history. The U.S. military should never be used against its own citizens, ever, period, ever. So that's why.
Okay. By a show of fingers, who approves overall of how President Trump is handling the issue of illegal immigration? Who approves overall of the president's handling of the issue of illegal immigration? I'm looking for a yes, not a sort of maybe. Yes, you approve. The 5 of you approve. All but Oscar, you approve or not? You do? Okay, Jennifer, do you approve? You don't.
I don't think so. And I think going back to, again, the criteria of who should and who shouldn't go.
Okay. So why do you approve overall of the president's handling of illegal immigration? For those of you who approve of it. Hector, why do you approve of it?
I approve of it because we had for the last 4 years, we've had millions and millions of people that have crossed the border illegally. We've had people that appear on the FBI wanted list that have crossed the border. Gotaways have gone crazy. So you have to do something in order to do something. And he's only got 4 years to do it. You got to remember that. He's got to take big steps, and that's what he's doing.
Okay. Oscar, why do you approve?
I think overall I do.
Why?
There's stuff here and there that I don't like about it, but overall I do because of the border. He closed the border. That's really why.
Okay. Other reasons why you approve? Justin, you've been critical of him on a lot of things. Why do you approve overall of his handling of the legal immigration?
It all goes back to the point of that if you're here illegally, like it goes back to the conversation I had with my parents, other people, if you do something illegal, expect it to catch up with you. You can only run for so long, right? So, you know, on a grand enough scale, other countries do this type of stuff. They're not so nice about it. They'll throw you in a little sinkhole. They won't just fly you back home on a nice coach and give you a nice water bottle on the way back out and a cell phone on the way in type of thing. It's being handled with care, and in order for something to be fixed, you got to clean up the mess. This is something that's already been in the process since 2020, the opening the border, everything else. As the other gentleman stated, that you got people FBI watch list, you don't know who the hell is here, and that if you're here illegally, just expect it to catch up with you. So how can I be against that? Well, I can't.
Okay. Any other sentiment about why you support the president on illegal immigration other than what's already been said?
Crime.
Seems to me that he's just following the laws on the books. If there are those politicians that don't like what he's doing, change the laws. I've not seen one person come up with any idea or any new legislation to change what is already on the books.
Okay. And Irma, talk about crime for a second. Why do you support him at thinking about crime?
Because of all the American people who have been hurt, killed, permanently disabled, permanently scarred.
Okay. Got it. So I want to share how President Trump has been justifying his actions when it comes to LA. Cindy's going to put on the screen a post that he had 9 days ago. And Cindy, once she puts it up, I'm going to read it to you out loud. He wrote, a once great American city, Los Angeles, has been invaded and occupied by illegal aliens and criminals. Now, violent insurrectionist mobs are swarming and attacking our federal agents to try and stop our deportation operations. But these lawless riots only strengthen our resolve. I'm directing Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and Attorney General Pam Bondi, in coordination with all other relevant departments and agencies, to take all such action necessary to liberate Los Angeles from the migrant invasion and put an end to these migrant riots. Order will be restored, the illegals will be expelled, and Los Angeles will be set free. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Cindy, you can take that off the screen. So by a show of fingers, who thinks the president's description of the situation in Los Angeles as, quote, violent insurrectionist mobs, unquote, that have, quote, invaded and occupied, unquote, that city is an accurate one? So 3 of you describe what's going on there. So that's his description is an accurate description of what's going on. 5 of you would say that. Okay. By a show of fingers, who thinks the Trump administration should arrest? Hector, you can put your finger down. You're frozen, I think. Sorry, you're frozen. So your finger looked like it was holding up there. Thank you, sir. By a show of fingers, who thinks the Trump administration should arrest and deport undocumented immigrants who have not committed a crime since arriving in the US and are working and supporting a family? Okay, so you crossed into the country illegally, but since then you've not committed some fresh crime. Okay? You're working and supporting a family. Who thinks that the Trump administration should arrest and deport those people? 3 of you do. Okay? And that's Justin, Hector, and William. Okay. So Justin, you said before, I think I'm going to hear it again if I ask you again, the act of crossing into the country was an act of illegality. This is just, they caught up with you. It's okay to send them out. Is that what you're going to tell me?
Bad as it may seem, a motion set aside, that is a letter of the law, yes.
Okay. Hector or William, any other reason why you think the Trump administration should arrest and deport people in the category I just described? Any other reason? Hector,
No other reason other than them breaking the law by
Okay.
coming in illegally.
Okay.
Well, I just want to expand on what Justin said. I don't think that we should get into the business of selectively enforcing laws. I think that if the law is on the books, we should adhere to it, and it shouldn't have different variances that whether we enforce it or not. It should be yes or no.
Okay. Got it. So Irma, you've been pretty much you've been pretty adamant in your comments about dealing with this problem. Why didn't you raise your finger and tell me that these folks should be deported?
I'm kind of torn about have them all deported. And then some of friends and family say that the people who have been here for at least 10 years and are supporting the family, not gotten in trouble with the law, paying their taxes and following our law, they should be able to stay and pay like the fees that everybody else has paid. Because like Hector, he said that the people that he knows, they have paid all the fees to be here legally, several $1,000s. But nowadays, the migrants that are coming, we're giving them gift cards for several $1,000s. So I'm kind of torn about whether it should be, everybody should be deported. It don't matter if you've been here 20, 30 years, or if it should be the ones that are 10 years and, you know, following the law, paying taxes and having a job and supporting their family and speaking English.
Okay. So hang on
I'm
a second.
I'm kind of torn in the middle about
Good
that.
point. Okay, so Irma, help me with something. So President Trump is deporting people who have been here a while, who haven't committed a crime, a new crime since they arrived. How do you feel when he does that?
I think they should all be deported.
Okay, but you just told me you're torn.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle of that, but it's just like some people say 10 years, some people say, 20 years or whatever, but I don't know. So I'm just kind of, I think they should just all be deported, and the ones that were working here, paying taxes and whatever, they might be able to get at the top of the list to come back if they haven't broken the law.
Okay, so got it. So I heard from Irma on that. Maria, explain to me why you didn't raise your finger and say that these people should be deported. The ones who entered illegally but are hold a job and have a family here.
Well, that's the part that I couldn't really answer. The ones that are holding a job and giving to society. If they're paying their taxes and they have tried to file the paperwork, sometimes it takes, not all people, it takes them 1 or 2 years. Sometimes it takes them 10 years. Sometimes it takes them, 15 years to get the paperwork processed. But they're still here. They're thankful for being here. They have now American kids. They're giving back to society in any way possible, and they haven't committed any crime, even in their country or here. We should put them on the bottom of the list. Just start, obviously we're going to get to them because, yes, just like Justin said and Hector said, it is the law, but sometimes the law makes it nearly impossible for a lot of them to actually become citizens at the end of the day. And that's what we have to realize also.
Okay.
So that's where I'm torn, because you said that they're working and helping their family. If you didn't say that, I would have been like, get them out.
Okay. Jennifer, talk to me about why you wouldn't arrest and deport these people.
I think like what Irma and Maria said, like, what if you have somebody who's like the 20 or 30 year, they paid their taxes, job. Again, it goes back, I think, how I feel about the criteria of like, is that the most important people that should be deported, or is it the ones that just entered the country recently? I think I keep going back to a criteria that, or do you give like those who have been here 20 or 30 years another, like, I don't know if they have, like Maria said, is like they've had a chance to, maybe try to become a citizen. But like maybe, I don't know, like maybe they're given the chance to become a citizen, and if they don't by a certain amount of time, then they have to be deported.
Okay, got it. Oscar, how come you didn't raise your finger on deporting the people I described?
No, I should raise my finger. I'm raising it now.
Okay, so you think the people that I described who are entered illegally, not committed a new crime since they arrived, and are working and supporting a family, those people should still be deported?
Yeah, because we did it the right way, and I think it's just not fair for everybody else, and it'd be like impossible to pick and choose and stuff. So I think they should all go and do it the right way.
Okay, got it. So hang on a second. So for Jennifer, Maria, and Irma, among the three of you, and Jennifer, you articulated this a little bit earlier, how many of you think that the Trump administration should be more discerning in terms of the approach that they take, or the sequencing of who gets deported first, 1,000th versus 1 millionth? That they should prioritize the criminals, the rapists, the murderers, and then go down the list. And if you've been here for 25 years and paying taxes, you should be at the bottom of the list. And if you're trying to become a citizen also, as you said. How many of you think there should be sort of a prioritization, by a better prioritization by the Trump administration? The three of you think that should be the case. Okay. All right. By a show of fingers, who agrees with the following statement? Every day that an undocumented person remains in the US, that person is committing a crime just by staying here.
Repeat the question, please.
Sure. Who agrees with the following statement? Every day that an undocumented person remains in the US, that person is committing a crime just by being here. 4 of you, same 4, okay. By a show of fingers, who thinks Democrats prioritize illegal immigrants over American citizens? All right, all 7 of you. Oscar, in what ways do they do that?
Free housing, healthcare, yeah, I mean, I can start with that, yeah.
Okay. What other ways do Democrats prioritize illegal immigrants over American citizens? Hector?
Also free healthcare, food stamps. It's they're actively courting them as voters. I don't think it's a secret.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Number of you seem to agree. All right. Any other ways other than what Hector and Oscar mentioned?
We heard that they're giving out, when they come over, they get a backpack, they get a smartphone, they
Mhm.
get clothes, they get a gift card for, I think, $5,000.
Uh-huh.
Prepaid card for $5,000, and they can do whatever they want.
Got it. Okay. Great. Excuse me for one quick second. Just want to make sure I'm okay on battery power here. All right, thank you. How does it make you feel that the Democrats do this?
Mad.
Justin, how does it make you feel?
Betrayed.
Betrayed.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right. Got it. Okay, great. So California Governor Gavin Newsom, a Democrat, actively opposes President Trump, what President Trump is doing in LA. Newsom wrote the following on June 8th, and Cindy will put it on the screen. He wrote, I have formally requested the Trump administration rescind their unlawful deployment of troops in Los Angeles County and return them to my command. We didn't have a problem until Trump got involved. This is a serious breach of state sovereignty, inflaming tensions while pulling resources from where they're actually needed. Rescind the order, return control to California. Cindy, you can take that down. By a show of fingers, who thinks Governor Newsom has a valid argument that President Trump is inflaming tensions by sending troops to Los Angeles? Justin, you do?
I don't agree with that. I agree that it's unlawful to.
Okay, but
I
you
don't
don't think
agree
he's,
with the
you
rhetoric.
don't agree that you don't agree that President Trump is inflaming tensions.
No, I'm not with the rhetoric. No.
Okay, got it. So Immigration and Custom Enforcement ICE officers are working to deport those in the US illegally. Imagine Governor Newsom used his power to try to block those deportation efforts by the federal government. Just imagine he did it. By a show of fingers, who thinks President Trump would be justified in having the governor arrested? Show of fingers, who thinks it would be, if Newsom tries to block ICE officers, who thinks Trump would be justified in having Newsom arrested? Three of you do. Maria, he wouldn't be justified in having him arrested?
I just on the statement alone, I couldn't really answer. I would need more details behind it. Like, is he stopping? Is he like physically stopping? Is he just saying everything is okay here in California, go to another state? Is he, I don't know. I couldn't really answer that question.
Okay, so imagine that there are undocumented people in a state building, and they're known to be here illegally, and ICE tries to get at them, and Newsom has his state troopers block the door. So ICE can't get into the building. It's California state troopers who are preventing federal ICE officers from getting into a building to arrest someone who's here, people who are here illegally. Is Trump justified in arresting Newsom in that situation?
I don't know the law behind that. I just feel like you're stopping federal agents. Like, I don't know if he should be arrested. Maybe I don't know the law behind it. I just don't want to answer just to say yes.
All right, that's fine.
It's not right. You can't stop federal agents, especially at a federal building. Like city police and everything don't have jurisdiction in federal building.
Got it. Okay. By a show of fingers, who would say the topic of immigration is one that you, your family, and friends are actively discussing with each other? All 6 of you. Ruby, what are you saying to each other?
Well, it depends because depends which part of the family I'm talking to.
Okay, well, give me a sense of what one group sounds like and what the other group sounds like.
Well, one group would say it's all the bad things that's going on and that it was a mistake and what he's doing by all these deportations are horrible and that he's targeting the families that are not supposed to. And then one part would say he's doing what he promised. And that's, and the reason why this is happening is because when Biden was there, so many people were like open doors. And so it's always a fight because I'm in the middle of the two.
You're in the middle of the two. Okay. Got it. Okay. Mariana, what are you saying to your family and friends? What are they saying to you?
Yeah, my family, definitely, yeah, same thing. Like I have the side that doesn't agree with anything and the side that I can have open conversations with. So definitely like we all agree on the criminal deportations. And just because of my line of work, I see a lot of changes with like people being able to buy a home if they have a certain visas or certain actual legal statuses. So that is something that I've not been liking. So I've been discussing that with my family.
What field? I'm sorry, what field are you in?
I mean, mortgages.
Mortgages, okay.
So there's been a lot of new regulations that visas, people with visa status, they can no longer buy FHA homes, only conventional. So just been a lot of regulations like cutting opportunities of being a homeowner for people that actually went through the legal process. So I do have a hard time with that as an immigrant myself that went through the whole immigration process and immigrated here. So
Got it.
very good conversations. So.
Okay. Zachary, what did the conversation sound like for you?
Most of my friends and family are fairly in favor of restricting immigration for both security and economic reasons.
Okay. And Rosalind, how about you?
Most people I know in the conversations I've had, they don't think that it's bad that people we don't fault people for trying to get here illegally, but when they come here and they do commit crimes, then they should absolutely be sent back. But, we want to have people come here the right way and not cut in line. So, having a family that immigrated here, they understand the desire to get out of where they're coming from, but you have to do it the right way. And just like, most people, and plus to protect us from people trying to come here and do bad things.
Okay. Connie, what are you hearing from your family and friends?
The majority of my family and friends agree with what President Trump is doing regarding immigration. There are a few of my friends who, because their families are directly affected, they are here, came over illegally recently before he got elected. So they're concerned of their status. And if they actually, one friend had a sibling and her spouse that were here, and she moved them from our state to a more democratic state so that they would be less likely to feel issues of deportation.
Okay. David, what about you?
Well, the disaster that Biden was allowing 10 million or whatever it was, and he never ever gave a reason why he was letting all the people. And to this date, I don't think the Democrats have ever said why they allowed that.
David, your family and friends, what are they saying to each other?
Yeah, we talked about that. I have a friend that her brother just got her green card after waiting 16 years. So, you know, how unfair is it that Biden let some people in and yet he had to wait online and just got it 16 years ago. And we also talk about whether we need to make or think about some exceptions, like people that have lived here 30 years or something and are illegal. Do we really want to deport them? We said, well, maybe they can stay, but they should never be able to vote if they came here illegally, and we will allow them to stay.
Okay. So by a show of fingers, who would describe what's going on in your local Hispanic community as a climate of fear? Who would describe what's going on in your local Hispanic community as a climate of fear? I got two, Mariana and Ruby. Okay. Mariana, tell me about that. How is it affecting day-to-day life?
A lot of the people in my community or my friends are Venezuelan. Of course, at the beginning of the year, they try to pass the TP, or they try to cancel the TPS, and everyone that was in that projected status will have to leave by June. So yeah, that definitely affected all my close friends, you know, having to just reroute your life somewhere else, even though they went through a legal process, paid their taxes, and did everything right. So there's a lot of things that are great areas, and I've seen them affected.
Okay. Ruby, tell me about that climate of fear. How's it affecting day-to-day life?
I just see a lot of fear with regards, like people, you know, like in the groups that I am in, they post, you know, be careful, don't go through this. They're doing raids and the ICE is coming, and so they're like abandoning their works or things, like they're afraid to go out. And don't go out without, you know, if you're a citizen, don't go out without your, you know, citizenship certificate or whatever, because you never know. So they're creating that source of fear around the area.
Okay, thank you. By a show of fingers, who has heard news that in the past 2 weeks, there have been protests and riots in Los Angeles related to immigration? Who's heard that news about Los Angeles? All 6 of you have. Rosalind, what have you heard?
I've heard of the major cities having protests. Some turn into riots with vandalism. I've seen a lot of reports that they're being funded by outside sources trying to sow division in our country, and chaos in some instances.
Okay. Zachary, what have you heard about what's been going on in Los Angeles?
It looks fairly disorderly, a lot of destruction of property, a lot of vandalism, a lot of disorder, blocking traffic, reminiscent of the 2020 riots. I'm glad Trump's cracking down on it.
Okay. Anybody heard anything very different from what Rosalind and Zachary just described? Connie, what have you heard that's very different from what they described?
Specifically to the California ones or the ones around in bigger cities too?
No, Los Angeles specifically.
About the same.
Connie?
Most I've heard of seeing the protests and seeing the rioting and how destructive it is. But then there are other news channels that have reported that they're peaceful. They are not agitated at all. They are just responding to what's going on, but that they are peaceful protests. But I've yet to see those.
Okay. Got it.
Oh, one more thing.
Go ahead, David.
I mean, one thing is that Obama deported between 3 and 5 million, and I don't recall ever being these protests or anything. So the question is, why do we have them now? And is the news media in a way kind of fanning the flames to all of this discontent?
Okay. How many of you would describe what President Trump is doing with his actions as being way more extensive than what Obama did, for example? Anybody thinks that Trump is being way more extreme, for example, than Obama was? None of you do.
In what sense? Are you saying the way he reacted to
the aggressiveness of the deportations?
Oh,
Anybody think that Trump is being way out of line compared to someone like Obama, who had a lot of deportations himself? So none of you think that Trump is being particularly aggressive relative to.
I think he's being aggressive.
Okay, but Ruby, my question. Let me rephrase my question. It's not whether he's being aggressive. It's whether he's being way more aggressive than Obama ever was. You think he's being way more aggressive?
Maybe because it's more in the news than Obama.
Hang on a second, but I'm asking that. Hold on a second. You're ahead of me. Let me slow you down a little bit. Which I love when my responses are ahead of me. Always good rather having them trying to catch up.
Okay.
Okay. But my question was, do you think that Trump is actually way ahead of Obama in terms of his aggressiveness and his willing to deal with these deportations in an aggressive fashion? I'm not saying what you're being told. I mean, do you think in actuality, Trump is being way more aggressive?
Yes, I do.
You do. Anybody else? The rest of you don't.
I wasn't here in the Obama government, so I'm staying silent. I don't know.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. So President Trump has activated 4,000 National Guardsmen and sent 700 Marines to Los Angeles. By a show of fingers, who approves of these specific steps? 4 of you do. Okay. Zachary, why?
Because a civilized society doesn't allow public disorder of the type that's going on in LA to happen.
Okay. David, why?
Well, we've seen this story before in other East Coast cities that they lose control and then the National Guard goes later. And the other thing is that, you know, they're disputing whether or not that was legal. Well, George Wallace, you know, the president had to send the National Guard to integrate the schools. And if it had been for George Wallace's desires as the governor of Alabama, he wouldn't have called the National Guard. So it was a good thing that the president back then called them. And here it's kind of similar. You know, if the president thinks that there's going to be disorder and the local governor cannot handle it, I think it's okay.
Okay. Any other reasons why you're okay with sending in troops? Rosalind?
I think that normally it might be kind of out of the ordinary, being that it was so early into the demonstrations, but I think given the BLM riots and everything our country went through a few years ago, and it being in California where Newsom will pretty much not put his foot down at all, I think that he had to get ahead of it. Otherwise, we would be seeing even more of it. So that's why I approve.
Okay. couple of you said that you don't approve. Tell me why, Ruby, you don't approve.
I think it was too much too soon. I think he should have waited to see what the local government has to do first. And then if it didn't work, then send whatever you send. But I think it was like too harsh to begin with.
Okay. Mariana, what about you?
Mine is more like a personal just experience. Like I lived through the Venezuelan protests when the government did that and sent tanks, and it got real violent real soon against the people. So I get scared. It's like more of like a PTSD thing, but I understand what Rosin's saying, like based on the history with how bad the BLM protest got. It's probably reasonable, but still it's a lot for me.
Okay. Connie, go ahead.
I just wanted to add that I know we're saying that he sent it too soon before it got bad, but there already been burning cars. They've already been throwing things at the local police that was there. What did we need? Somebody to get killed before we would send them in? I think it was pretty violent already and was necessary.
So on a broader question, by a show of fingers, who approves overall of how President Trump is handling the issue of illegal immigration? Who approves overall how the president is handling the issue of illegal immigration? 4 of you do. Tell me why. Why do you approve?
I approve because first, I think he had to start somewhere. We had nowhere before, and he started somewhere. He tried to focus on criminals, people that were either sex trafficking, people trafficking, or were murderers or rapists, but yet it was still not enough for anybody who opposed it. It was too radical, but you had to start somewhere.
Okay.
Well, and I think he's doing what he said he was going to do. And the other thing is that I'm hoping that he will change the culture. And even if a Democrat gets elected the next cycle, they won't allow, just open the border for whoever wants to come in. I hope that this will stay, that, we have to have law and order and only admit who we want to admit for the benefit of the country, not for the benefit of the world.
Okay. Zachary, why do you approve?
I approve of reducing both legal and illegal immigration because I believe it's in our national interest, both economically and political.
Okay. Great. For those of you who
If
disagree,
I could just add
go ahead.
something
Sure.
that Trump, like David said, he promised that he was going to do that, but we also had a lot to make up for from all the chaos for the last 4 years of who knows who was in our country. So I do believe he did the right thing by starting with the illegals that were committing violent crimes in our country. But then with the sanctuary cities that were purposely keeping him from arresting people in courthouses and things like that. And that causes more chaos and more potential violence. So him having to go to find people at their homes and picking up other people that may not have been deported, if they complied better, then we would be able to protect those people that are not here committing crimes, that are here illegally. Because I don't necessarily want them sweeping up all illegal immigration, all illegal immigrants that are here being, good people. But if you don't comply, then you're just he's got to protect us. So.
Okay. 2 of you say that you overall don't approve of how the president's handling illegal immigration. Ruby, tell me briefly why. I know we talked about this a little bit, but tell me why.
I just feel that that I know he promised that, but I feel like he is trying to meet the number he promised at any cost. Like he said, I'm gonna send back the X amount of illegal immigrants, and so he's not. It's not just the criminals. So I think he's like trying to meet a quota.
Okay. Mariana, why do you not approve?
I definitely approve of the border regulations and the actual illegal entry of the country. I don't approve with all the changes to the people that went through the process, and now there's changes, to the asylum and to the protected statuses, because they bet you, like, we have to provide every single piece of documentation for those who have been through the process. So yeah, those changes I am not too in favor for.
Okay, so you feel like that the rules have been changed on you unfairly? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm saying like the part of the illegal immigration, absolutely. Like the border, the people coming in through, illegally, and that definitely at that point you cannot have a job and everything's just illegal at that point. Absolutely, that is a crime. But there's been a lot of changes to the actual statuses, visas, and other other types of legal immigration that I don't agree with.
Okay.
Because you have to provide every tax return, every proof, every employer pays everything you own that you're a good citizen. They check your records, they check your blood, you go through vaccines, like they're good. They bet you to know that you're good people, and now changing those statuses is kind of unfair for the people that build their lives here.
Okay, thank you. So I want to share how President Trump has been justifying his actions in Los Angeles. So Cindy's going to put up on screen a post that he put up 9 days ago. I'm going to put it up and then we'll read it out loud. I'll read it out loud to you. A once great American city, the Los Angeles, has been invaded and occupied by illegal aliens and criminals. Now violent insurrectionist mobs are swarming and attacking our federal agents to try and stop our deportation operations. But these lawless riots only strengthen our resolve. I am directing Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and Attorney General Pam Bondi, in coordination with all other relevant departments and agencies, to take all such action necessary to liberate Los Angeles from the migrant invasion and put an end to these migrant riots. Order will be restored, the illegals will be expelled, and Los Angeles will be set free. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So by a show of fingers, who thinks the president's description of the situation in Los Angeles as, quote, violent insurrectionist mobs, unquote, that have, quote, invaded and occupied, unquote, that city, is an accurate one? Who thinks the president's description that I just read is an accurate one? 2 of you do. Okay. And by a show of fingers, who thinks the Trump administration should arrest and deport undocumented immigrants who have not committed a crime since arriving in the US, some additional crime after arriving in the US, and are working and supporting a family? Who thinks the Trump administration should arrest and deport undocumented immigrants who have not committed a crime since arriving in the US and are working and supporting a family? David and Zach.
I think it depends.
Wait a second. Why don't we get to the depends part in a second? Zachary, why should the administration arrest and deport those folks?
If we're not going to enforce laws, why bother even having them?
Okay. David, why should they be deported?
Well, if you enter illegally, that's a misdemeanor, but it's also a crime. Just like Zachariah saying, are we a country of laws or are we not? Now, there's obviously a practical aspect to that. So yeah, ideally you would start with, the criminals and the ones that are not working here, kind of living off public assistance and kind of move off the chain. I mean, it's a problem that it's hard to put very, very, specific cuts you know, it's probably completely impossible to solve the whole thing.
Okay, but David, help me with this.
Mhm.
So you just asked the question, are we a country of laws or are we not? If someone entered the country illegally, then they're here illegally. So why don't we just, as the president wants to do, deport the people who are here illegally? Why are you drawing distinctions? If
Well,
they're here
because,
illegally, they're all breaking the law.
yeah, so strictly speaking, yes. But there's a practical aspect that, you know, if there are maybe 20 million, it's impossible to deport 20 millions at once. So you have to establish some sort of priorities.
Okay. But
Rich, I think I misunderstood the question. Could you repeat it?
yeah, by a show of fingers, who thinks the Trump administration should arrest and deport undocumented immigrants who have not committed a crime since arriving in the US and are working and supporting a family? Okay, so Connie, you're with David and Zachary on that. So 3 of you. Okay. Connie, why should these folks be arrested and deported?
Well, first of all, you have to go, it was a crime. Even if they haven't committed one since, they committed a crime. And other people have gone through the proper channels to get here, have paid money to get their legalization. And how would they feel if I were one of those? I would be really upset that I went through all the proper channels, waited the years I needed to, and then had somebody who just crossed the border and said, oh, well, I've been here so many years. I should just stay here. I haven't done anything since. That isn't fair to me, the ones who did it legally.
Okay, got it. David, hang on a second. I want to hear from the other folks first. So Rosalind, you're supportive of the president's immigration policies.
Yes, I find it a very hard question to answer.
Tell me
But-
why.
Because like they said, they came here illegally, and I don't want people to come here illegally. But if they've been here for 30 years, my heart goes out to them that they've established a life here. If they came in the last year, that's not a very long time to say, oh, I haven't committed a crime in a year since the crime I committed coming to the country. So if somebody came in the last 4 years around then I'm less sympathetic to those families that may have come here a long time ago and have been, you know, prosperous and helpful in the country and have lived their life crime-free and are here truly just to make a better life for their family. So that's where it's a hard question for me. But if you want a hard answer, you came here illegally, that technically is breaking the law. And I don't want people doing that. I want them to come through the proper channels.
Okay, so hold on a second. Let me give you a hypothetical. Somehow the Trump administration over the next 2 years gets rid of the criminals, gets rid of the people who came in the last year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and they're working their way down the list. And they start deporting people who've been here 20 or 30 years. Are you supportive of that effort or not?
Well, that's a very grand hypothetical because I don't find that to be possible. But if they're here illegally, they're here illegally. When we had immigration decades ago, people weren't on welfare and all those things to help. They came here and they made their way. And if they couldn't hack it, then they went back to their country. But here, I feel like nowadays they're getting, support, whether it be housing or food or medical and all these things that are draining our economy for our American citizens when they came illegally. I'm not okay with that. But if a family's been here for 30 years, they take care of themselves and they don't drain the economy. But if you want to say, okay, they're here illegally, then yes, they should be deported.
Okay.
Rich, can I add something to that? I mean, if somebody's been here 30 years, what has stopped them from getting their green card or naturalization? Is what I'd like to know. If you've been here 20, 30 years.
There's not a direct path.
Okay. Connie, what if they've been here and it takes an exceptionally long period of time in order to get that approval?
I think that's a hard distinction. I had a family member, no longer in my family, who had been here years, exact situation we're just talking about, had numerous opportunities to get his citizenship. He never did it. Even when President Bush offered for all these people that were here illegally. Come on, you get amnesty, get your citizenship. He didn't do it. It wasn't until he married my sister. Then he had her help him through the process.
Okay. Got it. So let me ask you all this so I understand this a little bit better. Well, actually, I'm sorry. Explain to me, Ruby, why it's why the Trump administration should not arrest and deport these folks who are working and have families here.
I tend to agree with Rosalind. I think it's a really hard question. Because I think a lot of these families are helping the economy, especially the ones that have been here for years and have gotten, a job. And to address Connie's thing, I'm one of those that came here for the right thing, and it took me years to be a citizen. And yes, I sometimes feel like, oh, this is unfair that this person just crossed the border and he's like getting all the benefits that I never had a chance to get because I came here legally. I worked. I'm working, and but it's a hard question because I feel like what everybody's saying, that we're trying to solve a problem, that this great influx that happened 4 years ago, it was out of control. And I think they should, it should be taken case by case. And I know it's a hard thing to do, but I think it's, I think everybody should have like a chance to prove that they're here, that they want to do good here, not that, that's why I agree with them getting rid of the criminals, but the people that are here hardworking and producing and not draining the system, I think they should have a chance.
Okay, got it. David, quickly.
Yeah, so something that is not mentioned too often is that even if there's an illegal here that's not getting into trouble and it's working, strictly speaking, he's affecting the poorest, less educated Americans because the wages, there's a pressure down because they are going to charge less money. And, it's affecting the employment or the potential employment for the least fortunate Americans. And that's almost never mentioned.
Okay, got it. Let me ask you this. How many of you feel as though that the Trump administration needs to do a better job of prioritizing the sequence of how people are deported? In other words, that you would want to see them focus most first and most aggressively on people who are committing crimes, particularly serious crimes. And then once they work through that process, then they start working down the list of people who are less and less of a threat and maybe more and more of contributors to American society. How many of you would like to see a better prioritization by the Trump administration in terms of sequencing that?
I think they're doing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hang on a second. How many of you think the Trump administration is focusing mostly right now on criminals? 4 of you do. How many of you think that they're not? That they're being somewhat arbitrary in how they're doing it? Okay, 1. Mariana's not sure. Okay.
I wouldn't say arbitrary, but it's just like all at once. Because every single status seems to be in the same level. So I would more prioritize what you're saying, like the crimes, the less, work the order.
Okay, got it. So let me ask you, the 4 of you think that they're doing a prioritization. So when they arrest people outside a Home Depot and work to deport them, do you think they're hitting the highest priority people first? Connie, is that hitting the top priority people, the guy staying outside in the parking lot of Home Depot?
I will say no, it's not hitting the highest priority, but I think that you're going to have some that get through the cracks. It's going to be like that. If you are just focusing on the highest priority, and if this is not the highest priority and you're not getting those, then you're not getting any traction either.
Explain that to me. So the ICE guys who are arresting and deporting the guys in the Home Depot parking lot, how is that the highest priority when there are criminals out there that you'd think would be a higher priority?
Well, I think they are going for the higher priority criminals. As I say, it's not like they say, let's go get the Home Depot guys. They are getting those, but a lot of times the emphasis is on those that are not the high priority. That's what some news media focuses on rather than saying, oh yeah, they went for the high criminals. I mean, look at the father from Maryland that we all know has been in the news. They had focused on that so much that it turned out he was involved in some of the things that he had been accused of.
Okay.
I think
Got
with the, can I say something?
David, I'm going to go. I'm sorry. I'm getting myself behind here. I apologize. By a show of fingers, who agrees with the following statement? Every day that an undocumented person remains in the US, that person is committing a crime just by staying here. How many of you agree with that? 3 of you. And by a show of fingers, who thinks that Democrats prioritize illegal immigrants over American citizens? All 6 of you. Rosalind, in what ways do they do that?
Well, you see how hard they fight when you see the lawfare with all the judges who are trying to block Trump from deporting people like Abrego Garcia. You see the Democrats come out and defend him and say he's just a Maryland father. You see the American girls that are getting raped and murdered in our country. They don't talk anything about those poor lives that are lost, and they always talk about the bad guy as if he's a good guy, and they never mention the good people that are actually murdered in our country because of illegals that shouldn't have been here.
Okay. And what are the way the Democrats prioritize illegal immigrants?
Well, I mean,
Zachary, go ahead.
I mean, during the Biden administration, we had waves and waves of refugees from Central America coming in that he allowed to come into the country, probably with the hopes of inflating Democratic voter rolls. I mean, they heavily vote for Democrats, so they have an incentive to let them in, and they do.
Okay, got it. I'm sorry, Rosalind, in the interest of time, I need to move on. I'm sorry. So California Governor Gavin Newsom, a Democrat, actively opposes what President Trump is doing in LA. Newsom wrote this on June 8th. Cindy, please put it up on the screen, and I'll read it to you out loud. I have formally requested the Trump administration rescind their unlawful deployment of troops in Los Angeles County and return them to my command. We didn't have a problem until Trump got involved. This is a serious breach of state sovereignty, inflaming tensions while pulling resources from where they're actually needed. Rescind the order, return control to California. Take that off the screen, please. By a show of fingers, who thinks Governor Newsom has a valid argument that President Trump is inflaming tensions by sending troops to Los Angeles? None of you think he has a valid argument. Okay. So immigration and customs enforcement officers are working to deport those in the US illegally. Imagine Governor Newsom used his power to try to block those deportation efforts by the federal government. I'm not saying he did, just imagine that he did. He used his powers in California. Imagine he used those powers to block ICE efforts in California. By a show of fingers, who thinks President Trump would be justified in having the governor arrested if he did that? 5 of you, all 6 of you. Okay. And Ruby, why would that be justified if Trump got in the way of, I'm sorry, if Newsom got in the way of ICE and Trump arrested him? Why is it justified for Trump to arrest him?
Because he's going against the president. I mean, that's he's using his power. He thinks he's more powerful than the president. I think that's against the rules.
Okay, got it.